Out of the 40,000 missions Blackwater ran in Iraq, only about 200 ever involved a single shot being fired. Yet the United States government paid the company nearly $1 billion. In 2007, Congress finally looked at the math and realized that keeping just one Blackwater contractor in Baghdad cost American taxpayers $1,222 every single day. This visualization compares that $1,222 daily contractor rate to the cost of a regular American soldier doing the same job, on the same street. The soldier costs roughly 6 times less. The massive premium attached to the contractor is instantly carved up to cover logistics, life insurance, and the company's 15 to 25% profit margin. That huge markup doesn't buy a better weapon. A rifle costs the same no matter whose hands hold it. It doesn't buy superior training or more combat experience either, because these companies hire the exact same ex-Special Forces personnel that the U.S. military already trained and released into the private sector. So, if the government isn't purchasing a higher level of military performance, what exactly are they spending hundreds of millions of dollars in markups to get? The answer becomes visible on March 31, 2004. That morning in Fallujah, insurgents ambushed a Blackwater convoy, killed 4 contractors, and hung their bodies from a bridge over the Euphrates River. The response was immediate. Within a week, the U.S. Marines launched a massive conventional military retaliation to clear the city. It was a full-scale operation, resulting in hundreds dead on both sides, all triggered by the deaths of those 4 men. But because those 4 men were private contractors and not American servicemen, their deaths bypassed the usual political friction. Their coffins didn't arrive at Dover Air Force Base on the evening news. Their names didn't go on an official national memorial, and the government didn't owe their families a military pension. This reliance on a shadow force quietly escalated. By 2010, for the first time in any American conflict, more private contractors died in Iraq and Afghanistan than regular U.S. soldiers. That is what the financial premium actually buys. The state is paying for an insurance policy to shift human casualties completely off the public record, allowing them to fight a war without having to answer to voters for the body bags. To function, this American model of the industry requires bureaucratic channels. It relies on lawyers, lobbyists, and executives sitting through official Senate hearings to secure their contracts. But there is an entirely different way to run the exact same business. Russia's Wagner Group bypassed the red tape and operated through direct proximity to the state apparatus, run by a former hot dog vendor who got close enough to cater state dinners for Vladimir Putin. Instead of dealing with tax dollars and congressional oversight, Wagner took its payments straight out of the earth. By securing mining rights in places like the Central African Republic and Sudan, Wagner extracted roughly $2.5 billion in gold for the Kremlin in just 2 years. Whether a government routes its funding through the halls of a democratic Congress or pays its bills in untraceable African gold, both ends of the political spectrum are purchasing the exact same product, a war that officially does not exist. Despite generating massive profits, these companies carry fatal structural flaws that destroy them from the inside out. When your product is a heavily armed human being in a foreign country, your biggest threat is simply a low-level employee having a bad day. In September 2007, a Blackwater convoy drove into Baghdad's Nisour Square. One guard began firing and couldn't stop. 17 Iraqi civilians were killed, and the political fallout was so severe that the Iraqi government demanded the company be expelled, entirely revoking Blackwater's license to operate. If a company somehow survives its own employees, it inevitably hits a strange external growth ceiling. The smaller a private army stays, the more useful it is. But the larger and more capable it becomes, the more it inherently threatens the sovereign state that hired it in the first place. This is exactly what caught up with Wagner in the summer of 2023. After building a parallel state complete with its own armored columns, Yevgeny Prigozhin rallied 25,000 of his own men and marched them directly toward Moscow. Prigozhin backed down, but the consequences of crossing that threshold were fatal. 2 months later, his private jet exploded in midair. Within a year, Wagner was dissolved and its surviving forces were absorbed directly into the Russian military. It exposes the ultimate paradox of the industry. No government on earth can tolerate a private military company that actually grows capable of rivaling its own official forces. Even with founders ending up in prison or falling out of the sky. But look at this chart tracking the global market for private military services. The systemic demand for these companies is completely bulletproof. with the industry currently valued at $274 billion. As this trendline shows, that revenue is projected to expand by an additional $175 billion over the next decade. This growth is being driven directly by active conflicts stretching from Ukraine to Gaza and Sudan. The underlying driver of this demand is permanent. Democracies cannot afford the domestic political backlash of official military body bags coming home, and autocracies cannot afford the international scrutiny that comes with declaring official wars. As long as global powers require the ability to wage violent conflict invisibly, the business of buying and selling private armies will remain the ultimate growth industry.